Hey, welcome! Today, we're diving into a huge question that sits right at the center of our modern food world. Why does it feel so hard to make a healthy choice? Well, let's get into it.
I mean, really think about that for a second. When you walk down a supermarket aisle or look at a menu, you feel like you're the one in control, right? You're making the choice. But what if I told you the answer to that question is way more complicated than it seems?
And this quote from author Raj Patel really gets to the heart of it. The idea is that the choices we think we're making, they're actually just the very last step in a long process. The menu has already been written for us, crafted by some of the most powerful corporate forces on the planet.
So how in the world did we get here? Well, one thing's for sure, it was not an accident. Our modern food environment, the entire world where we find our meals, has been carefully and deliberately designed. You could say our appetite itself has been engineered.
Just look at this contrast. On the one hand, you have a food world that's tied to the land, to the seasons. You've got unique flavors like Stayman winesap apples, things grown for taste. And on the other hand, well, that's our world. It's the supermarket aisle, with this overwhelming illusion of choice where thousands of products are just slight variations of the same cheap ingredients. And those shiny apples? They were bred to survive a 1,000-mile truck ride, not necessarily to taste good. The menu, the entire game, has fundamentally changed.
Okay, so what is the engine that's driving this massive shift? It's a relentless, incredibly sophisticated marketing machine, and we have to talk about who its #1 target is. Now get this isn't some activist group saying this. This is the American Academy of Pediatrics, doctors. They are stating in no uncertain terms that advertising this stuff to little kids isn't just persuasive, it's exploitative, because a young child's brain simply doesn't have the defense mechanisms to fight back against these powerful psychological tricks.
And this isn't just about selling one Happy Meal. No, the strategy is much bigger. Marketers call it creating a cradle-to-grave consumer. The idea is to build that brand loyalty when they're incredibly young, to hook a customer not just for a week or a year, but for their entire life. It's a long-term investment.
And if you're thinking, okay, that's just a marketing theory, well, think again. This has actually been tested in court. In the famous McLibel case in the UK, the judge reviewed a mountain of evidence and came to a pretty stunning conclusion. It was determined as a matter of legal fact that McDonald's advertising did in fact exploit children. So this just goes to show you, these concerns are very real.
But here's the thing. This giant marketing machine, it doesn't just exist in a vacuum. It's propped up, it's fueled, and it's protected by a political system that actively helps it along.
You see, the rules that shape our entire food system, things like farm bills, subsidies, all those regulations, they don't just magically appear. They are the direct result of strategic, long-term investments by the very corporations that stand to gain the most.
Just take a look at these numbers. It's pretty wild. In every single major part of the food industry, from farm products to restaurants, just the top 4 companies account for over half of all political contributions. I mean, that's not just influence, that's dominance. It means a tiny group of corporations has an incredibly loud voice in government, and it can be hard for anyone else to be heard.
So, what does all that money buy? Well, it buys policies that create the perfect storm for cheap processed food to take over. That money helped fund things like the massive interstate highway system, which, surprise, became the perfect distribution network for fast food chains. And it buys farm bills that use our own tax dollars to subsidize the corn and soy that become the super cheap, unhealthy building blocks of all that ultra-processed food.
And this all leads to this huge conflict in our society. It's like a societal eating disorder. On one side, you have industrial logic. The perfect example is the modern turkey. It's an animal that's been engineered to be so big, so profitable, that it literally can't fly or walk properly or even reproduce on its own. On the other side, you have just biological need. The simple logic of a healthy, balanced ecosystem. Our system today is all in on the industrial side, and it's pulling us further and further away from what's biologically sane.
So we've got all this cheap, supermarketed, politically backed food everywhere. But what's the real price we're paying? What are the hidden costs that don't show up on the receipt? This line from Farmer James Rebanks is just, it's haunting. It's such a simple observation, right? But it says everything about what's happening to our land. A healthy field is full of life. It's got worms, bugs, birds. But a field that's been soaked in chemicals becomes sterile. It's like a green desert where not even a bird can find a meal. And the human cost is, if anything, even more shocking. When faced with documented, real cases of modern-day slavery happening in Florida's tomato fields, This was the actual response from a state official, just brushing it off, maybe 1 kcr. It shows this chilling willingness to just look the other way, to ignore the human exploitation that helps bring us our cheap food.
And it is so important to understand that these costs, they're not shared equally. This is where the idea of food justice comes in. As Ashante M. Rees explains, you really can't separate our food problems from issues of racial justice. Why? Because historically, systemic racism has shaped our communities, determining which neighborhoods get beautiful supermarkets with fresh produce and which ones get corner stores and fast food chains. It's baked right into the system.
Okay, I know, this is a pretty heavy picture, but here's the most important part. Understanding how this system was built is the first step toward changing it. Because if it was built by people, it can be rebuilt by people.
So how do we start to push back against this massive machine? Well, here are a few ideas, a few points of leverage. Things like simple, clear nutrition labels on the front of packages that cut right through all the marketing hype. Taxes on sugary drinks that make their price reflect their real cost to our health. An outright ban on those exploitative ads aimed at our kids. And of course, putting our support behind local farmers who are doing things the right way.
And at the end of the day, it really comes down to a choice in how we see ourselves. Are we just passive consumers, sort of pushed around by marketing, accepting the limited menu we're given? Or can we be active food citizens, people who understand how the system works, who go out and find alternatives, and who demand that the system itself change to put our health above corporate profit?
Look, our food environment was absolutely engineered. It was designed by a specific group of architects who had a specific set of goals. But it does not have to be this way forever. And that leaves us with one final really important question to think about. Who's going to design the next one?